Hi everyone, it's Faithful again. This is the second session, or episode, I'm not sure what to call it, but I hope it's better than the last one. I promised I will talk about stress. So stress affects all of us, and it's everywhere. And while a little stress is okay, some stress is actually beneficial, but too much stress can wear you down and make you sick, both mentally and physically. The first step to controlling stress is to know the symptoms of stress. But recognizing stress symptoms may be harder than you think, because most of us are used to being stressed that we do not even recognize the symptoms of it. We're like, well, this is my usual, I always feel this way, so it's what normally happens. But again, it's important to start to really focus and hone in on those symptoms so that we know when we are stressed and do things to kind of reduce our stress levels so that we do not get to a breaking point and become burnt out. Now, what is stress? Stress is the body's reaction to a harmful situation, whether they are real or perceived. When you feel threatened, a chemical reaction occurs in your body that allows you to act in a way to prevent injury. I think this is actually called the fight or flight response. And, during stress response, our heart rate increases, we start breathing quickly, our muscles tighten, our blood pressure would rise, and we're ready to act, to protect yourself. To protect myself, I'll do so. But again, like I said before, a little stress is okay, and it can be a good thing, right? For example, you were driving and you probably didn't see a car that just comes right in front of you, and you're ready to react, and you kind of slam on your brakes, and your car kind of gets to a stop. That's a good thing, right? Yes, it is. But again, if this happens all the time, and our levels are so high, it can be detrimental. Stress will mean different things to different people. There will be something that may stress somebody out that may not stress you out. And I think in small doses, stress can help you accomplish tasks at work, at home, and prevent you from getting hurt. But remember, we're not equipped to handle long-term chronic stress without having long-term issues, especially medically and mentally. I would like to really talk about the symptoms of stress, because again, if it's vague, we may not really know, but it's important to start to pay attention to your body. Physical symptoms of stress includes like very low energy, headaches. People can have like GI upset where they start having diarrhea, constipation, nausea. Some people start to experience palpitations of feeling like their heart is racing. Sometimes people can say, well, my heart just feels like it's like thumping, or it's like just rushing so fast. Some people can actually have, during the time, racing thoughts, or become so forgetful. They don't understand why. Like, why am I always lately being very forgetful? I don't remember things like I used to. And can actually happen in waves where you feel like you're not very focused and you're very disorganized. And this is probably because of your stress levels being very high. Some people have poor judgment during that time because they're really not able to think straight. Sometimes people's appetite changes. Some people eat too much. Some people eat too less. Some people don't eat at all. I'm in that category. When I'm stressed, I really don't eat. Some people eat more and can even gain weight. So people may actually either lose weight or gain weight. And some people, when they're stressed, will start to use more alcohol or smoke more, especially if you're a smoker, which I totally will tell you is not good for your body. We'll talk more about that in another episode. But again, the use of alcohol, or even saying, well, I think I've worked so hard, I want to just, drink to help myself calm down. And people may start drinking more and more. And again, they may not even pay attention to that, that's because they're stressed. And headaches can be a very big symptom of stress. People may start having frequent headaches and even tension headaches where they feel like their upper back just hurts and their muscle tenses up. And that's because of the stress levels. Those neurotransmitters go up, and your scalp muscles become tight. Your back muscles become tight, and people may have painful headaches, even migraines. If you have a history of migraines, when it becomes very frequent, you have to really, really hone in and pay attention to that, because that's telling you that you were really stressed most of the times. Again, some people, when you're stressed, their eyelids starts to twitch. They twitch their eyelids. The eyelids are twitching. It's not something that you can control, and it can be super annoying. And some people may remember or testify to that. It's not that common, but some people do experience that. Another thing people may have is they start shaking their legs or shaking their arms. Some people get up and start pacing the room or pacing around, or even walking more, maybe just in a straight line back and forth. They may not even realize it, but that happens when we are stressed or in a stressful situation. For me, I realized not long ago, actually, that when I'm stressed, I start flickering my ear lobe, because for some reason it kind of calms me down. And now I'm actually paying attention to that, because again, that is a symptom of stress. People sometimes can get very depressed and they don't notice even that they're depressed. They may feel angry all the time, or even feeling very hopeless. And because of that, they start to worry more. People may say, why is this person always mad or just angry? That's not him, that's not her, during a certain time, because they're stressed. That is something that happens, or that's a symptom of stress, and it can affect your mood, even affect your ability to engage in certain activities that you used to like. So if you realize that now you're not able to do those things you love to do, that can be because you're physically stressed and it's affecting you mentally. One thing that is important that I want to talk about is inflammation, because we may ask ourselves, how is it that stress can affect us in our everyday life, especially in our health? What happens when we are stressed? It leads to increased inflammation in the body. And this might be due to the fact that the chronic stress increases our body's production of pro-inflammatory cytokines. That's what we call that. And these are usually there as a type of immune cell that is used to defend the body during an infection. So if you you are coming out with a cold, your inflammatory markers or your cytokines increases to defend the body. And this happens as well when we are stressed. So even being ill is one type of stress. And these inflammatory markers or inflammatory cytokines is thought to underlie many disease processes like heart disease, diabetes, autoimmune disorders that people may have. It's not all the time that stress causes autoimmune disorders. I'm not saying it always does. I'm saying it's possible. Actually, studies have shown that it can cause autoimmune disorders. Heart disease is well proven that it can be a big cause or contributory factors to heart disease, because remember, when we have these inflammatory markers, although it's a good thing to help us when we are sick or when we are ready to fight against things, when it's always there, it starts to deposit plaques, even, for example, in our arteries or vessels, including the vessels of the heart that supplies the heart. And people can get things like heart attack, like heart failure and things like that. That's a long, complex process, but just wanting you guys to know and understand that this is something that can happen when we are stressed. And again, That's why sometimes when people are stressed, their blood pressure goes up, and with time, it increases the activity of the heart when you have high blood pressure, and it causes the vessels to constrict the arteries, and with time, it can even lead to heart attack and a stroke, which can be fatal. So that's important. Some people break out in their skin when they are stressed. They get acne. They don't understand why they are not having, or they are noticing that they're having all these things in their body. They're not sure what that is. That could be a symptom of stress. Some people lose their hair when they're stressed. And the hair loss is kind of interesting, but it has been studied over and over that intense stress can result in hair loss, and the stress levels are responsible for that. It can also lower our immunity to give us our immunity helps fight infections, but when it's lowered, it weakens our immune system, so we are more prone to any kind of infection, the cold, influenza, other things. So when people are always falling sick, sometimes it's important to see whether this is actually because of stress, causing us to be more prone to infections. Sometimes people get stomach aches when they are very stressed. Like me, I notice when I experience a very high stress levels not too long ago, and I realized that I started having diarrhea, which is not like me, and my stomach started hurting more, and that's why people may develop things like ulcers, ulcerative colitis, things like that. And so important to recognize when our body releases this adrenaline and these hormones that can drive the gastrointestinal system and cause inability to be effective in digestion, and can cause pain and discomfort and diarrhea and things like that. I'll talk more some of my experiences with stress and my symptoms next episode, so that I can drive it home and give you keys or give you pointers to what I did to have a good handle on the stress, or what I'm doing to help me with my stress levels. Some people may have like lowered libido. What is that? It's when it can actually affect your sex drive, because those hormone levels are high, and a man or a woman may not feel sexually aroused. They just feel they don't have interest in sex, or even when they do have it, they are not able to do well. And relaxation is actually important to be able to have a good sex drive and do well with sex. If you do have it, if you notice that, pay attention to it. Now, there's a lot of big changes in the brain with stress that actually can cause people to be very depressed, be very anxious, be very nervous, and can lead to a lot of emotional or mental disorders. And that is, if you notice this is becoming very, very, very high and you're feeling completely overwhelmed, you probably may need to talk to a doctor about it and see if you need to see a psychiatrist if it's really, really bad and it's affecting your level of functioning or cognition or attention. Even post-traumatic stress disorder can be a very chronic cause of symptom of stress. So when something that happened in life in the past and it's affecting your ability to function or do your level regular activities, it comes over and over and plays in your mind and affects your ability to function, that is something that you need to see if that is there, to talk to someone, probably a psychiatrist, or first talk to your doctor and see whether it's worth going to a psychiatrist. Some people, when they're stressed, their period becomes very irregular. Now, and I mean, most women can tell, oh wow, my period is so it's late, or it's very, very small, scanty. That is something when you notice to pay attention to, because when women struggle with irregular periods, it's not always due to stress, but it can be. So it's very important to pay attention to that. Stress can raise our blood sugars up. Yes, it can. And there's been lots of studies that's been done that has shown that, especially in obese Black women, diabetes can actually ensue because of stress, because the epinephrine levels, the hormone levels go up. Recall, as I said before, the stress life events precipitate inflammatory markers, and this increases our epinephrine, norepinephrine levels and more, cortisol levels, and this can raise our blood sugar. Some people with time can develop diabetes or prediabetes because of stress. Premature aging, people can age so much quicker because of stress, and it's important to know that chronic stress can shorten our telomeres and protective caps, which this is the telomeres are protective caps at the end of the cell chromosomes, and when they are there because they help to prevent it shortening, and the shorter our telomeres are, it actually can cause sooner aging or premature aging. So again, when this happens, when we have stress all the time, our telomeres shorten, and that can result in premature death. So our body's fight and flight response can, with time, result in more things than I can even talk about. Psychosocial problems such as poverty, joblessness, all those things can make people very stressed out, and with time affect our ability to focus and can cause really big issues with time. Some people cannot sleep because of stress. Sleep disturbances are seen, and I mean, I don't even have to tell you that when you're very stressed, you may find it difficult to go to sleep. And remember, sleep is good for us to help us every day to recuperate from the day before. And if we can sleep, or we wake up in the middle of the night and cannot return to sleep, this may be due to increased levels of stress hormones in the bloodstream that affects our ability to rest. And with time, this is detrimental to us. I always say some people resort to coffee or resort to drinking more when they are stressed. Long-term effects have shown that this is not good for us. And so is more and more things I can talk about with stress, but how can we combat stress is a big question. First of all, you need to identify the stress signals. Train yourselves to know when you're experiencing stress. So these little things like your neck stiffness or headaches more frequently, or noticing that you're pacing more, or noticing that you realize that oh wait a minute, why is my legs shaking all the time? Why am I noticing that I'm more and more I'm eating more and more than I used to, or drink or not eating anymore, or finding it hard to sleep. All those things are things that we need to pick up when we notice that, oh wow, my heart is racing so fast, or my blood pressure is high. What is that? It may be our body's way of telling us that we are stressed. And when that comes up, we have to pay attention to it. Do not say, oh well, that's usual for me. I mean, that's how it works, and I mean, it is what it is. Remember, chronic stress affects us long term, and this is very, very detrimental. One thing I always say is, when you stress, what I'm doing now for myself is I talk myself down. If I have an event, or if I have something I need to do that may be very, very that may be something that could raise my stress levels. For example, yesterday I was giving a talk, or I was doing a presentation, and I've not done that in a while. I used to do that before more often, and I was like noticing that my heart was racing just probably an hour before giving the presentation. I started to talk myself down. I said, Faithful, you can do this. You can handle this. I'm going to calm down before I go back. So I went, looked at myself in the mirror and said, you can do this. You can do this. And honestly, it sounds very silly, but talking yourself down is very logical, and it injects some positivity, and that helps a lot to deal with our stress. Another thing is take 3 deep breaths. Deep breathing is another simple strategy for alleviating in the moment tension that you may be experiencing. When you feel anxious, your breath starts to get shorter, shallower, and more irregular. Now, taking 3 big breaths is important. How do we do that? We sit, or we can stand. In that moment, being conscious that your belly is expanding while you're doing that. So when you take 1 breath, make sure your belly expands and contracts. And while you do that, make sure your shoulders are lowered down. And I sometimes rotate my neck while I'm doing that, back and forth. And while I'm doing that, I also make sure my shoulders are lowered, and gently rotate my shoulders back and forth, or my neck back and forth, while you take those 3 deep breaths. And what does that do? It ignites your parasympathetic nervous system, which combats the sympathetics, which is the one that causes release of the hormone, like the epinephrine, norepinephrine. And honestly, this is a important step in helping you in that moment when you're experiencing a stress episode, especially in activities that you may need to combat or do while you're stressed. Now, another thing I recommend is enlist a friendly ear. It's very important to talk to someone about your stress, or just talk to someone when you're having a stressful time. Some people are so quiet, they do not talk about things that they're going through. Again, that's probably who you are, but again, you have to be conscious or make a conscious effort to find someone that you connect with, and that could be difficult to do. Now, everybody needs to have someone they can trust, who they feel they can talk to when they're under pressure. And again, very important, you pick that very carefully, because again, this has to be someone who can help you to connect things that can help you grow, and help you can share your vulnerable moments with. Venting to that person allows you to regroup, and if that person is actually mature, they may just listen, and they may not even have to say anything, and that actually helps. And studies have shown over and over again that this really helps in decreasing our stress levels. I personally have very mature friends, or people that are older than me. Now, I'm not saying that being older, it means you're more mature. You could be younger, but just have a mature mind. But I tend to have older friends than me myself, because I feel like they've gone through life, they have more experience than I do. And so I have 1 or 2 people that I talk to when I'm stressed, or when I'm experiencing stressful events, or something in my life is going on that is stressful, and I talk to them, and sometimes they pray with me, or most of the time they pray with me, or sometimes they just listen to me and just give 1 or 2 things, or even make me laugh, and I get better. That's important. One other thing to do when you are like me, that have a stressful life, or stressful or stressful encounter almost every day with work and things like that, is to make a list. Important task needs to be accomplished, and less important task may be left alone. Now, what you need to do is make a list so that you can know what is more important than the others, and take your time, sit down in a very quiet place, and jot down what is the first item that I need to achieve today, what's the second item, what's the third item, and every other thing you start to realize are not that important, even if you had thought it was. And it's okay if you can't achieve those things, and that's what I am doing. I'll tell you more about that in my next episode. And that's helping me prioritize. Very important to prioritize, and you realize that you may be spending more time with more mundane things that are not that important. And so very, very important, make a list. And remember, always know it's okay to say no. And I am learning that now, because I always feel like if I'm not able to do something when someone asks me, it's a sign of weakness. But again, it's not. And next week, I'll talk more about that and what I'm doing, because very, very importantly, there are certain things that we can do. And it's not just saying, no, I can do it. It's finding a way to say that is very, very, very constructive. For example, I may have something on a project that I'm working on, or something like I need to do. That's why I make a list. I know I have to do 1, 2, 3, or this is a project one I need to do. I need to focus on. And if I'm told, oh, Faithful, can you please help me with this? I'll say, oh, can you please attend this or that? And I nowadays, I listen, I look at it and say, well, can I really do this? No, I can't. Okay, I know that I may, but it's going to cause me stress. So I'll say, well, thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you so much for thinking of me, or this great opportunity to do this. But, I am really fully booked with this project, and I think I want to give it my best, and because of that, I will not be able to do this at this time. Please, could you let me know when something like this comes up again, where I can attend or I can do? Doing that is very, very important, to be able to do it in a way that is very respectful and constructive. And another thing I'm recommending, I'm starting to do myself, is project an aura of calm wherever you are. Wherever you go, there may be something even at work that may make you agitated or make you upset. Do this. Take a moment, take those deep breaths, and calm down, calm yourself down. Force yourself to keep speaking in gentle tone and controlled tone. If you need to take a moment to just stop and go to the bathroom and regroup, that is helpful to stay calm, to keep an aura of calm, especially if you're a more hyper person like I am. It's very, very important. One thing I always, and you may know very well, is to exercise. Very, very important. Exercise. When I say exercise, regular exercise is what I mean. Not exercising one day today and one day next week. No, we recommend 3 to 5 days, 5 days actually, of exercising 30 minutes each time. Now, if you're like me that gets very, very, very busy with work, with life and all that, with the family, try to see even if you can do 10 minutes at a time, 3 times during that day. That will be very helpful. And try to do not as vigorous exercise, but things like taking a very, very brisk walk, or working on the treadmill, or even just running around. If you love to run, early in the morning could be the time to do it, or when you get back in the evening, do that for at least 30 minutes. I always say 5 days a week, but if you were so busy where you don't have time for 5 days a week, even 3 days a week is something that you can do. Jogging may help, running may help, or nowadays we have this apps where you go to on your phone where the personal trainers, you can just go on. My husband used to do that, where he goes and there's a personal trainer who tells you, oh, now walk for 2 minutes. You do that and then jog for 2 minutes, or do your hands like this for 2 minutes. That's very, very much fun. I found it fun when my husband did it, and I sometimes chimed in with him and we did it together. And that was very, very helpful. So doing that can be very helpful to release or decrease our stress levels. And learn some relaxation techniques, not just the deep breathing, but also trying to practice even some yoga or some meditation. For me, I try to every day take at least 15 minutes to just sit by myself, away from my kids, away from my husband, and just meditate. Just meditate, doing absolutely nothing. I'm telling you, it sounds like something small, but doing that every single day is so, so important, because that helps me to just relax. And I've realized how grateful I am for that. So try it and see. Every day, try to meditate, or yoga, or relaxation, anything. I'm not saying going to do something you love to do. Just sitting, doing nothing for a few minutes every day is helpful. Yoga is helpful too. And so one thing too is learn how to keep a stress diary. I have a stress diary. I write things that bother me. I write things that are affecting me. And when I write, I pour out my soul. And not just doing that, that makes me recognize, when I do that, makes me recognize things that I may feel like is such a big deal for me, I need to focus on. And I say, oh wow, Faithful, I didn't realize while writing this that this is really bothering me as much as it is. And I work towards solving it. And honestly, learning when you're doing that, writing in a diary, you start to feel that element of release. I do feel it when I write. So if you are not a writer, that's okay, but try to even write small things down. And with time, it can even help you pinpoint different scales of your stress and pinpoint specific things that are really bothering you, which you may need to address. For example, maybe somebody hurt you. You may start to realize, maybe I need to go talk to that person. And one thing I've learned in life is don't take life too seriously. I used to be so serious with life, and now I'm starting to realize, Faithful, life is not that serious. Learn to forgive. Trust me, it's not for the other person. It's for you. It's for me. I started to realize, Faithful, someone hurts you, talk about it. Find a way to sit, reflect on that. Take the time to just let it pass. Let your stress levels come down at that moment, and maybe later on go and sit and talk to the person about how you feel. And the person may not say, I'm sorry. You don't go with an expectation. You just go because you want to release that feeling, by talking about it to that person and forgive. Whether the person acknowledges it or not, forgive. That is a big caveat or big thing to go through life with to decrease your stress levels. Reduce caffeine intake. I know that sounds really funny, right? And you're like, Faithful, why do you say that? Because stimulants increase your stress levels. I know it sounds weird because we drink coffee to kind of alleviate stress, to help us cope with things when we are stressed out, even at work. It makes us to wake up, make us to do what we need to do. Caffeinated drinks are actually not great for us. So drinking soda that has coffee in it may not be good for you. So decrease your level of drinking coffee. If you notice that you drink more and more coffee, know that that's because you're stressed, and that is something that we will pinpoint and work on doing all these other things to help you alleviate the stress. Try to replace caffeinated drinks or coffee with natural juices, herbal teas. So we can find teas that are really good, that are healthy, that have antioxidants and contain amino acids that can calm the nervous system. And with doing that, that helps you actually deal with your stress level. Those refined sugars that may be seen are helpful to boost your immune system and help you during stressful times. So decrease your caffeine intake, decrease alcohol use, and refined sugar consumption, because that can actually help make you gain weight. There's more and more I want to say, but I think in the second episode I will talk again about stress. That will be the last episode for stress, and I'll get someone who is an expert in stress to actually talk and answer some questions about stress. So if you think this is beneficial, please share it with others. And remember, we have another episode next week to complete stress, and that will be way better than this one, because you have someone who is an expert talk about stress. I am actually getting a coach to help me with my stress. That sounds weird, right? But yes, I am doing that, and a friend of mine actually trying to link me with this lady who can help me to coach me, because I know and realize that I have a stressful kind of life because of my kind of work, and with my kids, and with my lifestyle. It's stressful every day, and so someone helping me to navigate the stress is also good for me, at least. And so next week we'll have an expert like that talk to us about stress, and I will tell you what I've been doing day to day to help me to combat my stress, and I want to make it very practical. So please tune in, and remember, smile and laugh. This is very good. It reduces stress because it releases endorphins and decreases our excess cortisol and adrenaline levels. So be happy. Life is too short. Sleep better. Try to sleep every day at least 8 hours. When we do that, you tune the TV down, you dim the lights. Try when you actually sleep to keep the light down and sleep at least 8 hours. One more thing, when you're stressed, during a stressful episode, just take a break and go do something else. Do what you love to do. Think about it. Faithful, I tend to think, what is one thing that you love to do that makes you happy? And I've been trying to do that more and more, and make it more in my list of to-do things every day, so that it can give me a balance. Again, I'll talk more about what I am doing next week, and we'll have an expert. Stay tuned.